We are recording Mr. James.
Yep, I'm here.
It has been a hot minute.
Has it? It has, I guess.
I
Uh,
mean, that's to put it lightly.
well, I'm glad to be back.
There's a national election, and then you show up.
Yeah, well, we had discussed during the primaries, what would happen, and I've been paying attention and ready to talk about it. Interested to hear maybe what you have to say as well.
Well, just for background, why have you paid so much attention? And also, what are your credentials to actually have an opinion on some of these things, right? Besides being a citizen and paying taxes.
I mean, of course, we want to stay informed, but I think the first credential is, yeah, being able to be informed. Looking at the news, reading the criticism that comes from those talking heads, politicians, their take on it, and then seeing where the lines of opinion go. So I think that's the first credential. But of course, I've always been interested in politics since, social middle school social studies. I studied political science in college.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Went to law school. That's a legal take sometimes on political developments.
Well, I
And
mean,
then
once you go to law school, you're qualified to be a politician, is what I've learned over the years.
I mean, it draws a lot of people, and I think that at least on the federal level, it tends to be a strong credential. Being able to know how policy is made, how laws are enacted, how legislation's written. And so went to law school, and I've now been out of law school 10 years.
Well, the general election occurred. I think it's safe to say that most of the people that we are surrounded by in New York City were probably not the happiest.
That seems to be the case. I mean, even
Right?
after election day, the other week, in the especially the subsequent days that followed, you could definitely see, at least in my view, the a feeling of, despondent, um, kind of resignation, just uh, from people in the subways, seeing coworkers in the office, people on the street.
Yeah, so before we get into it, I mean, I am a registered Democrat and before we start getting into like what happened beforehand, I was fully convinced that Trump would win until the whole Kamala thing happened. And then every commercial I saw was Kamala, 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 CNBC, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. I mean, you name it, other than like Fox News. They were all like, yo, Kamala is tied. Kamala is coming. Kamala has the support. And I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. Like, maybe, just maybe Kamala will win, right? Like, did I vote for her? No. Did I vote for Trump? Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is, like, from an outsider's perspective, the narrative made it look like, yo, Kamala is actually going to pull this off. And Monday morning quarterback, obviously Trump just destroyed her, right? So before the election, what did you see, right? Because we got one candidate in Trump who didn't even step on a debate stage with the candidates that were running against him and still won. And on the other side, we had Joe Biden, who was the candidate, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, right? So, what did you see in the pre election that led up to Trump's giant victory?
And I come at it kind of from the opposite point of view, and I guess, the more unpopular point of view with a Republican lens. And in some ways, actually, the trends that you had seen or the feelings that you expressed, I kind of identify with. So if we rewind the tape and go
Hmm.
back to the primaries, on the Republican side, there was a full primary, but none of the major candidates really um, mounted much of a challenge to Trump in the primaries. There was, I can break it down into various different camps. There was the very anti-Trump candidates. By
Hmm.
that, I say that's a former Vice President Mike Pence running against, his old boss Donald Trump, saying,
Chris
"Hey,
Christie.
yeah, Chris Christie as well. They had different pitches. Mike Pence is like, "Hey, I upheld my, oath to the Constitution by certifying the presidential election results last time around, and I'm the true social conservative." Like you said, you had Chris Christie, who's like the more moderate guy. He says, "Hey, I'm the original tough guy. Before Trump was around, I was a governor of a blue state." Um, but we can't have this Trump guy around.
Right.
And then there were the people more in the middle that were uh, trying to support the MAGA movement, but not openly criticizing Trump. That's Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Hmm.
Ron DeSantis
Hmm.
is basically, hey, I'm going to do everything that Trump does,
But I'm
but
not Trump.
I am not Trump. I've done everything honestly. I have no baggage. We're gonna do the same policies, but with none of this none of this soap opera drama, none of
Yeah.
these scandals that keep coming up. And then Vivek was a new kid on the block. I had never heard of him before the primaries. He seemed to say, "Hey, I'm a young guy. We want to appeal to new voters, people in urban areas, minorities." Didn't, at least I saw, openly criticize Trump, but he was there. And then on the more, I guess, moderate, uh, maybe even what Republicans would say liberal leaning portion is Nikki Haley, who's the main challenger to Trump, who said,
Yeah.
"Hey, everything's we're gonna go back to normal, and I'm the one to have normalcy back in the party." But in the primaries, all these candidates uh, didn't even together pull a majority in the primaries, and state by state, Trump won majorities of the primary states and basically vaporized all these candidates. Nikki Haley was the main challenger, but once she lost South Carolina primary, one of the early states, which she
That's
is
her own
from,
state, right?
and she was governor of, and
Yeah.
she lost her own state. Pretty much after that, she was done. So Trump had definitely consolidated power within the Republican Party, and it really showed in the results. And different from the early days of 2016, where there was always a question, hey, is this even real? I mean, he's polling as a major candidate. He's getting,
Oh man.
substantial votes, but I don't believe that he in the early states ever got a majority. And it wasn't until all the other candidates in 2016 fell off that he, got the nomination. This time it was very clear.
So before we go any further, because we can break this down for days, right? And then we can break down the Democrats for days. But in a very short snippet, what do you think resonates with people that allowed Trump to not even debate people on the primary and still come out way ahead of the competition, right? Whether they were anti-Trump, middle of the road Republicans, or hey, I'm with Trump, but I'm not controversial, right? Or as controversial. Um, what allowed Trump to just, I don't know, take it easily?
I think that I would break it down into two categories. I would say it's proven specific policies because on the economy and on immigration,
Mm,
and which goes back to when he first ran in 2015, 2016, which was, hey, I'm gonna make the economy great. We're gonna cut taxes, deregulate. We're gonna improve businesses, and we're gonna help you know, people economically. With regards to immigration, it's no mystery that he was all about specific policies to say, hey, we're going to end uh, illegal immigration. We're going to have asylees apply and then wait at in Mexico for their asylum cases to be heard. If there are people that have crossed the border illegally, we're going to not catch and then release them with a court date into the U.S. They will be caught and be detained and then maybe be punished for crossing the border illegally. Zero tolerance policy where instead of necessarily targeting those that have committed crimes in the U.S. if found to be illegally within the U.S. to say, hey, if federal immigration agents come across you, you could be deported to kind of have a whole dynamic policy change with regards to immigration from prior administrations. So those specific policies, and then kind of the attitude that he's someone that will never bend to opposition or to challenge, that he will stick to these policies and is not a softie like other politicians. So it's kind of a candidate that cannot be bullied or bought. He's someone that will stick to the policies as he's presented them. And not for nothing, in the first administration, I think what resonates to uh, supporters is that sort of attitude that I'm going to fight to change established policies that are
mhm.
not benefiting supporters, and I'm never going to back down.
So, I mean, there's a million things to talk about here, but I think the number one thing that I would ask you is before he was president, before he even laid down a single piece of paper of legislation, I mean, he killed it, right? He crushed it. Like he beat all the Republicans and he beat a Clinton, right? The Clinton name is like a political powerhouse. Do you think that outside of his policies, outside of him, quote unquote, being unwavered and sticking to his guns, what about him do you think that like really grabbed people's attention, right? Because you can say that he's an outsider, right? But at the same time, he was donating tons of money to like a bunch of people that would benefit him, right? Like he even admitted it, right? Like, hey, I gave money to the Democrats when it favored me, and I gave money to Republicans when it favored me. Um, what do you think about him really resonates with people, right? Because it can't just be the policies. Because if you talk to the average, this is my assumption, so I apologize for it, but if you talk to the average American, they're not going to talk to you about policies. They're going to talk to you about the person. So what about Trump as the person do you think is really gravitating a majority of the country?
I think you hit on something that's very important and actually also really goes to the uh, kind of magnetic field that supporters have with Trump, which
Mm-hmm.
is he doesn't talk and act like a normal politician.
1,000%.
Uh,
Cannot agree
so
with that any more than
there,
anyone
there's
on
a
this planet.
there is a whole political class, and um, that seems to say certain things. They try to maybe pander to certain groups within the United States, but when it actually comes to following through and pushing through with policies, they kind of waver. And maybe Trump is a reaction to how people have felt after the Obama administration, where he brought in, at the beginning of his administration, 2008, he brought in young people, the working class, and
Hmm.
with young people, it's like, we're going to change things. We're going to, work to change climate. We're going to see about fixing the educational system for the working class. He was like, hey, we're going to try to, make things better. We're going to try to benefit union jobs, working class people. But I think that towards the end of the administration, he kind of fell off and didn't follow through on policies that were promised for young people, let's say, and for the working class. He became more about globalization that said, hey,
Yeah.
we're willing to work with other nations and willing to create these multinational, international business agreements that won't necessarily help or may not help the working class here in the United States.
Yeah, and
So,
and to that point, I mean, if you listen to Barack Obama give speeches these days, and not that I've like sat down and listened to all of them, but when you see clips online, he literally talks about his regrets, right? Like he's like,
mhm.
"Man, I had such opportunity and I didn't take it."
Right. And so I mean one when politicians in office, they have certain priorities. And I think that the groups that gravitated to Trump um felt like there's the politics agreements where they may have given him support, but he didn't follow through and look out for their interests. So in going back to the original question, well, what is Trump's big draw
Hmm.
stylistically is it's funny, but it's true. He doesn't rely on a teleprompter. He speaks off the cuff. He doesn't have speeches that are vetted so that they don't offend this group or that group. He's just seems like he's a normal person, different from other politicians, and that may have been a fault um on Biden's side and on Harris's side when they were in their campaigns, where they kind of felt scripted and they didn't feel like normal people.
100%. I mean, if I had to vote for one or the other, I mean, I would vote for someone who sounds more like your average person. And that may sound dumb, right? Because I mean, okay, think about it, right? You go to science class, you obviously want the smartest person to like succeed, but can you relate to them? At the end of the day, will they ever win a popularity contest? And chances are no. And again, there's a million doors to go down, right? Like, okay, as a society, is that correct? Are we not well educated enough to want to have the smartest person in the room lead, right? Um, is this an American culture thing? Is this a global thing? Is this a human thing? Is this left versus right? Like there's a million doors to open here. So I will try my hardest to be concise and focus here, but Donald Trump literally went on stage and was like, "Your wife is ugly." XYZ, whatever he said about other candidates, whatever he said about immigrants, whatever he said about anything, right? Now, to be clear, the mainstream media did grab stuff like that and just ran with it, right? So he might say, "Hey, I don't like how, you know, 1, 2, 3 sounds. I prefer ABC." And then all of a sudden the media would be like, "Yo, this guy hates 1, 2, 3. Absolutely hates it," right? And it's like, well, that's not really what he said, right? He just prefers ABC. Um, what about again, it's such a broad conversation that it's hard to focus here, at least for me. Um, but because he is your average person and doesn't speak like a politician, why do you think that the average American grabs to that, right? Like, wouldn't, again, going back to the example of the science room, if you're going to be partnered up and you have to pass this test and you have to pass this project, would you not want the smartest person in the room? Or would you want the person that like you can associate with, right? Like, oh, I can play video games with him. Let me be his partner. Like, would you not want the top of the top, even though they're a little weird? I don't know, like translate that to politics, right? Do we not want the smartest person in the room, or do we really want that average Joe that we can just connect with more?
It- I guess when it comes to politics and public policy, uh, I think that what people are looking for now is not necessarily the smartest person, but the
Mm-hmm.
person that they can trust. The person
Mm.
that they will set out policies that people connect with and will follow through with them. And I think that there's definitely a strain that's or a movement that's been pushed through the last couple election cycles, which is who do we trust? Washington seems so disconnected from the issues throughout the United States, yet Washington is a place that is the epicenter of the solutions or where the solutions can come from. For
Right.
example, going back to those two major issues, the economy, you know, federal policy, tax policy, that needs to come from spending policy of the federal government. That needs to come from Washington. Immigration policy, individual states, you know, localities, cities, towns, they can't control, you know, the southern border with the immigration issues which they face. The solutions need to come from Washington, D.C. And so I think that voters are looking for someone that they trust to fulfill the policies. Not necessarily that they don't want the smartest person, but right now they want someone that they trust. That's like I think the primary thing that voters are looking for. And when someone's reading things that are written by other people that they don't necessarily believe, that once they hit a roadblock, they'll not follow through on, or when there's some issue, they'll forget about that policy. Yeah, that's not something that voters are looking for. They want someone that they trust, and if someone speaks to them in the way that they understand, that really goes to, I guess, that sort of quality.
Yeah, and I guess this is where I would challenge that, right? Because I do believe that Trump speaks in a manner that connects. So with that, 100%. I cannot deny that whatsoever. The trust part doesn't want to release his taxes, has lawsuits, got sued for not paying people, has talked a lot of shit, blah, 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 blah. So the trust is like, okay, if you told me that a politician didn't pay his people, trust issue. If you told me that a politician doesn't really trust this type of people, trust issues. If you told me that a politician said one thing and he's going to do something like release his taxes and he's got like blah, 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 and then just never does it, trust issue, right? And then going back to the whole policy thing, I just don't see, I just don't see the average American really like saying, hey, this policy helped me and this policy is good and this policy, yada, 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 right? So for me, this is where I struggle, where it's like, where is this support coming from? Um, and this might be a good gateway to the Democrats, um, where it's not so much as, hey, the Republicans are awesome and Donald Trump is awesome, but more of the Democrats have told us one thing and have been wrong and have not done anything for so long. that we just got to go the other side, right? So which one do you think it really is, right? Is it more Donald Trump is trustworthy, implements policies that help people and just connects with people, or does it lean more towards the look, we got a bunch of Democrats that just are so out of touch, keep promising, the heavens and that we are the good guys and blah blah blah, and then you have literally the opposite, right? That where they do nothing. Joe Biden literally ran on the whole student loan debt forgiveness and just delivered nothing, right? Joe Biden said, "Yeah, we don't want war and we want, Donald Trump will bring us closer to World War III." And then all of a sudden he's sending missiles and money to places that we probably should not be, right? And it's like, so which one do you think it really is, right? Like Trump being awesome and the Republicans being popular, or is it more of the Democrats just pushing people away?
I think it's both, but more the former. That he's it's trust as far as fulfilling policies. And I think it's a
Mm,
backlash too of I think that you see, I guess, coming from a more critical side, you're like, oh, Trump didn't release his taxes. He's never mounted a credible response to all these sexual harassment, sexual assault
right,
allegations, bankruptcies,
right.
this and that. But from the voters' point of view or the supporters' point of view,
Hmm.
more so, they say, hey, everything that happened in the past, that's in the past. He's being criticized. He's being prosecuted by state and federal prosecutors. They're only doing this because they don't like his policies, and he's going to fulfill on those policies.
Even in 2016,
Yes, I think that I mean it at that time there were no, legal cases, but I think it goes to, something that you said earlier is like he is unfiltered. He'll say controversial things. And then the media is like, "Oh my gosh, he said this, he said that. This is horrible." But to
right.
those that are listening, they're like, "Hey, you're taking this way too seriously.
Oh, a
Uh,
thousand percent.
Relax. Like he's saying stuff. It's just the spirit of it, and he'll fulfill it. And the criticism that may come from mass media or from political opponents or lawyers with lawsuits, that's just you're just trying to put roadblocks on issues that are not policy oriented. You're just attacking his character. But we're done with that. Uh, Everything that happened that is not related to holding public office, we don't care about. We just want solutions. So I think that that's what when we talk about Trump's kind of I guess support and how he generates support is he says, uh, I'm a normal person. I will fulfill these policies, and when they're attacking me, they're really attacking you, and I'm gonna make promises with regards to politics and policy, and I'm gonna fulfill those promises.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that that is one of the best messaging, you know, designs or packages or whatever you want to call it, strategies where he does that, right? Like, yo, when they're attacking me, they're attacking you. And I think that that is one of the most genius things in the world, right? Because think about it. More today than 4 years ago, but the man won an election, passed controversial laws and, selected the Supreme Court people and whatever. He lost an election, right? By a large amount. Let's not get into the numbers because all of a sudden this year they all disappeared. Um, but what a great message, right? It's like, yo, they keep attacking me, they keep suing me, they keep looking for things on me. Why? Why? And that's a great question. right? I think that the Democrats and people in general have made a huge mistake in attacking him because let's think about it. We've had X amount of presidents, 40 plus presidents, who have all or mostly all committed crimes against humanity, have committed crimes against the American citizens. Um, and how many lawsuits and how many times have they gone to, jail to take a mug shot? None of them. None of them. So for all of a sudden them to be like, oh, well, this is the one president that has committed a crime. It's like, is it really? Or is there an agenda behind it? Right?
I think that that's definitely true, and I think it's kind of gone both ways, but I think voters are just sick of it. I mean, I think it began most prominently with the impeachment of Bill Clinton, where Republicans went hard on him lying under oath about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky. He testified in a civil deposition. Hey, I don't, we don't have any intimate relationship. I don't know her. She's
Right, right,
just,
right. Like
just kind of in the office. Not much less like no real personal relationship, much less a sexual one. And
right.
then,
And to be
but
clear, I mean, they clearly had a sexual relationship. He went on, you know, in front of the nation and said, I never had sexual relations. And he tried to like backtrack and be like, well, receiving a blowjob is not a sexual relation. It's like, well, I think everybody would say that it is.
Yeah, exactly. And then it went into a whole impeachment thing where Republicans in Congress are like, "Oh, this is the most horrible thing. He's
Right,
obstructing justice. He's
right,
lying under oath."
right.
But I think the American public and also the reason for the acquittal is like, okay, did he lie under oath? Yes. Were there issues with obstruction of justice? Um, Possibly, likely, yes. But
I
does
think
that
it's a
really
clear
matter?
yes.
Does that really matter to
Well,
us?
clearly not because like he stayed
No.
as president. The economy was good. Like it doesn't really affect the day to day of an average American, the fact that the president got a blowjob in the White House. No, not really, right?
Yeah, so I think voters are done with this kind of scandal politics, and they just want someone that will uh do create change for them. And then also going back to your other question, is it also Democrats pushing voters away? That may be part of it, where there is maybe a feeling in the electorate that, hey, Democrats are phony. They're fake. They'll say whatever it takes to get elected and never follow through on their policies.
A
And
thousand
I,
percent.
I'll take two kind of funny slash serious slash not so serious things that came up in the campaign at the very end between Trump and Harris that kind of um, uh, really
Summed it up.
summed it up in very visual moments. So the issue about like uh, the Democrats and the media taking things way too seriously, over criticizing, overcharging Trump is a statement that happened at the Madison Square Garden rally at the very end of the campaign,
Oh, the
where
whole like Puerto Rico.
yeah, so like a comedian, not Trump, a comedian said, "Hey, as a joke, there's a floating island of garbage, and
It's called Puerto Rico.
and it's called Puerto Rico." And then the media that was all over the news,
Yeah.
everywhere. That was everyone was talking about it, and I would say probably promoted by the media for viewership and criticism, and by the Democrats to say, hey, this is evidence that Trump's campaign, the Republicans, are racist, specifically racist against, Hispanics.
Yep.
And then what happened after that, a development happened after that is President Biden was speaking on like a Zoom call with Hispanic supporters, and he says, the only garbage that I see are his supporters, being, Trump supporters.
Yep.
And then the next day, I think Trump is at, going to a campaign thing, I believe in Wisconsin, and then gets into a garbage truck dressed in, reflective vests, like a sanitation worker, and he's like, you know what? My supporters are not garbage. All these millions of people are not garbage. This is a horrible comment. I can't believe it happened. But it was serious, not serious. It was kind of a joke because from my view, it's him kind of trolling the messaging to say, hey, these things may have been said, but it, these are not serious comments, and everyone's blowing it out of proportion to the point where I have to dress up as a sanitation worker and climb into a garbage truck and drive away. And that I think was kind of the message like people are coming after me and taking things out of like way too seriously. I'm just here to fulfill my stated policies. And
So,
then,
oh,
oh
go
yeah.
ahead. Continue. Continue.
Oh yeah, and then quickly on the other side about um, Democrats being phony, there was a whole minor sort of story in the election about Kamala Harris, whether she worked at McDonald's or not. She said that, hey, I worked at McDonald's, a summer during law school, and I worked at the frying machine, whatever.
Right, right,
And then,
right.
but there apparently were no written records from McDonald's or
There's no
anything else
evidence.
that, no paper evidence that said that she actually did. And then, I believe in Pennsylvania, Trump worked for like 30 minutes at the fry machine, at McDonald's, making fries and then giving it out through a drive-through to supporters. It was a serious thing. It was there. He's like, I'm here like a working class person, doing honest labor, being where people are. Vice President Harris doesn't do this. She's never worked here, and I'm doing this to show that I'm a genuine person. So, and it was serious, not serious, because yeah, it was a real campaign event. He's there trying to connect with regular average vote, everyday voters. But it was kind of funny to say like, hey, uh, I'm showing you on camera that I'm actually working here. Uh, Democrats on the other side are phony. They just say that they worked here, but I'm actually working here. So it was like serious, but not serious. Like he's not going to work there tomorrow. Let's be honest. But it's just like the two sides of saying, hey, the other side's going crazy over small things. I'm here for to accomplish big things. And here I'll do dirty work, but uh, it's things that Democrats talk about, but never actually do.
So, three things, right? The last one is we'll talk about an extensive the Democrats, right? The Democrats are broken. The Democrats are, I don't know, for lack of a better term, idiots. Um, but before we start talking about them and focusing on them, the first thing I want to ask you is when you say that the voters are over it, Bill Clinton getting caught lying, getting caught cheating on his wife, getting caught doing what he should not have been doing in the White House. Um, as a standard for leading a nation, should we care about that? Yes or no? Like as a whole. I don't care if you're a Democrat
Yeah.
or a Republican, right? Just as a standard, should we care if they're lying to us and doing things that they should not be doing in front of the camera?
Yeah, I think that character certainly matters, but it's about, what standard are we holding ourselves to? Yeah, it's probably not good to have, someone that uh, may have broken the law running for office or defrauded people, in office, running for office. But as long as it's not egregious and it's not something that looks political, uh, that I think that's what voters care about. Is that I think that when there are criticisms of politicians um, nowadays, I think that voters see it as overhyped nonsense, where it's made to uh, impinge someone's character, but it's not really something that is treated equally between the parties in evaluating candidates. And also, it's something that may not be so relevant as far as um, fulfilling policies. But yes, I do believe that character matters, but I think that when the finger pointing goes around, is I think voters see it as having gone too far. Yeah, like if you had like a serial killer that, seeks to run for, convicted serial killer that's trying to run for office from prison, people are like, no, that's like ridiculous. But when it seems like it's an unfair criticism, or something that would not be treated equally if the situation were the other way around, I think voters care less on those character issues.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, for me personally, I mean, it's hard to convince me that someone like Bill Clinton can literally just sit there and be like, "Oh, my bad. I didn't consider that a sexual relationship." And it's like, "Well, I think you should probably go." Right? Like, would you get
right.
fired at your job if you
Uh,
did something like that?
I mean,
I think
yeah,
you probably would.
yeah, right. Especially if it had dealt with, something related to work. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And his job is to be president, right? And so for him to do something like that, I would be like, "Yo, you got to go." So, all right, moving on from the standards of like ethics, right? Like clearly ethics at that level don't matter, right? Like at your job though, my job and most people's job, if you do something like that, you're fucking gone,
No, that's true, but I think the
right?
the playing field is different
No,
because
100%,
yeah, the
100%.
like the concern I think with a politician versus just another employee is that their whole job is to step into the public arena and take fire. And so I think that in a normal person's job, they're not subjected to criticism of their personal life or criticism that doesn't go beyond actually doing the job. But I think in with a politician or public figure, it's different because they're being criticized for everything. And I think that the backlash right now is
Then
that
I then
yeah.
in that if that's the case, then it should be backwards, right?
I mean, I think that what the public feels right now is that these criticisms are one-sided. And they're being lodged for political purposes to knock out another candidate.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
Bill Clinton literally said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman," and then all of a sudden, it's like, no, actually, you literally got a blowjob in the White House. How is that not a sexual relationship?
no, and that's what he would say to defend himself to say, yeah, it was not intimate. But I think as far as the defense is that, hey, that investigation and prosecution just went too far. They were trying to use a character issue to, you know, uh, kick Bill Clinton out of office. It had nothing to do with actual policies that matter to people.
Yeah,
And
again, like if I'm at my job and I'm fucking killing it, but I do something stupid like that, I guarantee you I'd be fired.
right, then you would be fired, but I think there's a sense that for political figures that
It's
scrutiny
different.
is
It's a different
so
standard.
yeah, is so intense. And yes, it's true that um uh in any normal job you get like in serious trouble or fired. But I think with politicians the analysis is different because they're out there in nonviolent combat where they're trying to uh you know win elections, win policy wins, defeat the other side's um, stances and arguments. And so when someone comes up with a personal character issue, people are less willing to say, hey, that guy should be fired for that.
What about the going back to the whole like Puerto Rico hot pile of garbage floating around or whatever the wording was. And honestly, I can already answer my own question because I think it's all the media. But why do you think that nobody cared when Donald Trump literally called Democrats animals? Like literally animals. They're animals. He was like, "Oh, I don't want to call them that, but they are. That's what they are. They're animals." Why do you think that nobody cared about that versus a comedian that just literally said, Rico, garbage. All of a sudden it was like headline news. What do you think is like the difference between that?
I'm not aware of like what he said with like regards to animals,
Hmm.
but I think that maybe the difference is maybe uh is not as controversial. Um, because maybe people do feel that Democrats are treating or Democrat politicians are treating the public badly, and they're basically ravenous animals that just want to feed their power. But I'm not aware of that actual quote, but
Gotcha.
but also I think there is certain distrust with how these statements are presented because w like with the Puerto Rico thing, it was all over everywhere, reported everywhere, all over the news, all over social media. I think to generate controversy, to say, hey, this
Right.
this is actual
Right.
proof
Right.
that Trump, the Republicans, his supporters are actually racist, and you can point to a specific video that shows it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen, I'd say over the last 8 years, I've seen a few hours of Donald Trump speaking. Um, and yeah, I mean, let's not pretend like he's not going out there and being like, man, these criminals, these animals, these whatever you want to call it, he's probably said it, right? So to sit here and be like, whoa, well, I've never heard him say that. It's like, well, okay, like that's fair. If you haven't heard it, that you haven't heard it. But if I told you that Donald Trump's called Democrats animals, I don't think anybody would be surprised. Like, not one bit.
No, I agree with that.
Now, when Joe Biden says, well, his supporters are trash, or Barack Obama said, hey, Republicans are Bible clinging people, or whatever he said, and what did Hillary say?
Basket of deplorables, like
Deplorables,
yeah,
deplorables.
like some are irredeemable and
Right, right, right,
they're
right, right.
just deplorable and kind of like cut off
Right.
from
Now, do I
persuasion.
agree with any of those languages if you're running as a politician to represent a fucking country? No, I don't agree with any of those. But again, you watch your average Donald Trump speech and he goes into those pretty often, right? So why do you think that it is the Democrats say it, it's the end of the world, Donald Trump says it, and everyone's like, eh. Not a biggie.
Uh, yeah, I think that it's
Like
just like
what is that? Like why do you think that is?
I think that supporters are willing to give Donald Trump a pass, even though they might not agree with like the literal statement, because they might feel that right now politics is like hypersensitive. And this might go back to
So if it's hypersensitive, why can't Democrats say it?
oh well, let me
Oh, sorry. Continue,
finish like
continue, continue.
the trend is like
Yep.
one of the things that is an undercurrent in um kind of the MAGA movement and Trump campaign is we're not going to be politically correct because our opponents, the Democrats, use political correctness as a way to
Mm.
kind of
I see where you're
mold
going.
us to their side.
Right.
Like you can't call, illegal immigrants necessarily, rapists and murderers. That's crazy. But uh, I mean, the counterpoint is, hey, number one, some of these people are probably criminals, but number two, it's getting to the point that we need to stop illegal immigration because it's threatening American society. And to say things in a very direct way is kind of the way that we want our policy to go forward without obstacles where you say, hey, you can't say that. So that diminishes our ability to actually put it into policy. So I think that's one part. And another part is kind of the Democrats don't say that, but they kind of have that outrage complex where it's like, hey, you can't say that because that goes against, decent policy. We're great people. We have such strong moral fiber. But at the same time, uh, there's outrage because they wouldn't say that because their policies are in line with language that is not controversial. Kind of like, yeah, if it gets into social policies, is hey, we're inclusive of everyone, and um, uh, we don't make distinctions between, um, you know, certain people, and we, we'll accept uh, preferences as they arise. But I guess the backlash is, hey, we're going to be very direct and very critical because we don't uh, really believe in the way things are stated in mainstream discourse.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect segue to go into the Democrats, right? And I think what you alluded to is honestly the truth, right? You have one side, the Republicans, who say, this is what we think. We think that a large illegal immigration population coming in here is dangerous. And here's why. We believe that, abortion is wrong. And here's why. And we're not going to apologize for how we word it. We're not going to apologize for how we see it. We're not going to apologize for anything. This is our stance. Versus the Democrats who are like, we're the good guys. We will not hurt feelings. We will not, judge anyone. We will not do this. But also, you guys are garbage. And also, you guys are deplorable. So you're setting yourself up for failure if you ever criticize, right?
No, I think that
What
that's right.
what 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 did you see with the Democrats leading up to the election that you think was either A, the recipe for failure, or B, um, I don't know, just Democrats in general? Like, do you think that they were the worst party for the future, or was it actually just them shooting themselves in the foot?
Um, I the
It's a
before we
loaded
get to
question.
that
I know, I know.
conversation, but I think I've been asking this myself, and my theory is with if we're talking about the Harris campaign, they chose policies. They led with policies that were not overall winners and didn't explain policies. So, for example, in watching the debates, Harris's speeches, Tim Walz's speeches. The two main policies that I understood that they were writing on is number one, abortion rights, where Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Dobbs decision. We're going to pass Roe v. Wade as legislation in Congress. We'll sign it into law, and then we'll have everything back
Right.
nationwide
Right.
to the standard where in all states, at least for some period of time, abortion will be legal. So that's number one. That's the lead policy is abortion rights.
Right.
And then number two, Trump is a threat to democracy.
Oh my God. I hated that. I hated
And
that so
I
much.
would ask you like what did
Uh,
that even mean? I feel like people had different views. Personally, to me, in seeing it, and maybe I'm on the right side, so I'm more critical. I thought it was literal. Like Trump is a threat to democracy. He is Hitler. Um, Harris,
well, that's what they said.
said he's a fascist. Yeah, 100%.
That's what they said.
But does that mean that Trump being a threat to democracy and Republicans being a threat to democracy, that a dictatorship is, coming January 20th, 2025? That's what I thought it meant is like the Republic, with voting and legal processes in a constitution that must be followed by Trump as well as, all the branches of government in the states. That's all gone. That's kind of what I understood the argument to be is, yeah, he's a literal threat to democracy. America, as we know it, in its with its, democratic Republican values is over. Is that what you thought?
This is the problem. And I think I alluded to this earlier is the media. In 2008, when Barack Obama was running for president for the first time, this is a young black man, or how do we want to say it? Half black, half white, whatever you want to call him. Um, with the middle name Hussein. I had so many people come up to me in North Carolina and say, "Hey, you know what? If we elect this motherfucker into office, this is the end of democracy. He will replace the stars and stripes with his face, and he will put his name on the flag. And this is the end of it. This is literally the end." And I looked at those people and I was like, dude, you guys are retarded. Like, plain and simple. Like, what about this man screams the end of the world? And I remember going to church because I was dating a girl who liked to go to church on Sundays. And I went to church after the election, and all they talked about was it's the end of the world. This is it. It's the end of the world. And I was like, well, everyone here is mentally challenged because not one single thing about Barack Obama made me think like it's the end of the democracy, the end of the world, the end of anything. Fast forward to 2024, and everything that those churchgoers were saying, everything that these people were telling me in school is all of a sudden broadcasted on national fucking television. It's the end of democracy. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. It's the end of the world. Blah, blah, blah. How the fuck did we go from a few crazy people mumbling it's the end of the world because a politician won to having CNN, CNBC, whatever channel it is, outside of the super right wing, even Fox News was kind of like hinting at it. Um, how do we go from like rumors and dumb people saying stuff to there you go. You turn on the news and it's a threat to democracy. It's the end of fucking America. It's the end of blah, blah, blah. I'll never understand how this all happened. And I talked to so many people today who were like, oh shit, Trump won. That's it. It's the end of the world. And I'm just like, that's what I was told when Barack Obama won. How are we doing this? Like what in God's name? I don't like like do you see what I'm saying?
No,
It's
yeah, I
it's
see
come
it.
full circle. Full
I
circle.
I I see exactly what you're saying, and
I just don't
I
understand how the media just like all of a sudden accepted that,
well,
right?
I think it loops back to some of our other conversations, and I'll try to give a kind of analysis of that. Number one, Trump does say those things like, "Hey, we gotta suspend certain rules, and we can't have the Constitution be such a, barrier to what we wanted to achieve." He said stuff like that,
Oh, 100%.
and yeah, like, I'll be a dictator on day one, but like with context is like, I'm really
Executive
gonna,
orders,
yeah, executive orders. I'm gonna, be very
which is
strong on
what Biden did,
immigration.
right?
Yeah, I'll be very strong on immigration, and uh we're gonna drill baby drill. We'll unleash oil and gas
Yeah.
exploration and refinement and stuff like that on day one. But I think when you talk about the media and the discussions in society, I think it goes to number one, Trump is not backing down and he's actually said these things. He's not going to be like, "Oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, so sorry. I didn't want to offend anyone." He's like, "No, I said it and I believe in definitely the spirit of these comments." Number one. Number two, I think that the media has also um, it gotten drawn into, hey, the politics of fear.
Yeah.
You get to
Yeah.
generate you get more views, you get a greater following, you get a greater say in the public narrative if you present these
People
things.
want the drama.
Yep, right. And so that's the whole analysis where after the election in 2016, yeah, there was a famous quote that said, "The media took Trump literally but not seriously, but voters took him seriously but not literally." And
Mm, I like that.
and it may even carry through now. Like the
Yeah.
media's promoting that the mainstream media is promoting that narrative because that's something that is not disavowed by the Trump campaign, like these comments, but also they're saying, hey, you should be afraid because he's going to be a very different president from the ones you've had in the past. He might even be a dictator that doesn't follow, the laws and the Constitution or may bend
Yeah.
it. And so that's the criticism. And then, the Democratic Party, that was a major message. The number two message is, hey, we follow the rules. We're great people. We are of high moral character. And this guy Trump, he's gonna be a dictator and he's gonna take control and he's not gonna follow the laws and the courts. So, stick with us because everything's gonna be peaceful. So I think that that became, um, the criticism, and that's how it became part of the mainstream discussion.
Yeah, so with the abortion thing, I really do wish the politicians just could come together and be like, "Hey, look, everyone has the right to get an abortion, right? Like just plain and simple, right? And if there's no doctor around you, then you have the right to go to a doctor where you can go to and do whatever, right? Because I think that that's I don't know. I don't think well, not to get into it, but I think that should be a universal right to get medical attention when you need it. Yeah, the threat to democracy. I mean, give me a fucking break, right? Like, as soon as they started using that, I was like, no. No, 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 no. 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, everyone was like, defund the police. And I was like, no, 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 no. You cannot say that. If you literally want to defund the police, you're taking away safety for so many people. And you can make an argument that there are communities that suffer under the police, and I agree. But that's not the majority, right? And this is why it's like don't defund it, but maybe reform. You should reform it, right? So that if you are a cop and you break a law, you get in trouble, plain and simple. And if you're a really good cop and you've done a great job for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you should be compensated for it, right? Like it is a hard job. And that's a job that I don't ever want to do because I know how hard and difficult it can be. Reward them, reward the good ones. So then that way, more and more people want to do the right thing. All of a sudden, oh, Trump is a threat to democracy. Okay, well, why? Well, because a bunch of people stormed the Capitol. Okay, cool. But he literally did not say, go kill them. He did not say, go break everything in there and like loot the place. Now, did he say, please don't go up there and get on private property or the property? No, he didn't say that. And did he take his sweet time to say, hey, everyone, chill out, go home? Yeah, he took his sweet time. But by that association, I can be like, well, Eminem told me that fuck these people and I can go kill them, right? It's like, hmm, okay. Let's pretend like Trump was never at that rally in the first place. Um, it's individuals being individuals, and they all got hot in the moment and did very stupid things. Is that a threat to democracy? Well, not really, because the military can go in there and just kill all of them in a heartbeat. Like, let's just be realistic. Um, to lean on the message of democracy is on the line, and the Democrats then say, you know what, we're not going to have a primary. We're not going to let people vote for who they want to be the representative for the Democrats. We're just going to push Biden in, even though everybody knew that he was too old, not fully competent, on his last fucking leg, if we can all be honest. And then at the last fucking minute, just be like, oh, by the way, remember that vice president that hasn't done a goddamn thing in the last 4 years? She's actually going to be your candidate. And on top of that, not only does she not ever gain a single vote in her life in terms of presidential level, um, she's also got a terrible track record. And if you want to talk about morals, it's probably at the same level as Trump. Um, but yeah, vote for her. Why? Because she's a woman of color. That's that's just not how it works. And this is the full transition into the Democrats, right? Like, what are you guys doing? If we're the
Well,
good guys, what are you doing?
I have like I've been thinking about a couple of these things. I would say first, I mean, it's easy to say now because we know that the Democrats lost the election. But I would say like it wasn't as big a loss as maybe Democrats even think. I mean, yeah, she lost all the swing states, but the blue wall states, I mean, it was
It
close.
was close. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard
Uh,
I heard that like it was like 150,000 votes between all the states that those swing states that could have like turned the election, right?
right, and she just needed to win the so-called blue wall states like
But the fact that she
Wisconsin,
lost
Michigan,
all of
Pennsylvania.
them,
Yeah, she lost within, percentage points, but and I think in like Wisconsin, it was like less than 1%, and lost the popular vote by, I believe, between 3 to 4 million, which, in terms of hundreds of millions of votes, is
Right.
still really tight. I
Right.
would even say, hey, it wasn't a winning message, but it was a strong message resonating with Democratic voters because Democrats have been leaning into this for years. I mean, going back to January 6th, like to the, Democrat liberal voter, that was national catastrophe. They'd say, hey, that shows that he's a dictator, that his voters are insane and don't believe in the democratic process. He won't concede the election, so he doesn't believe in elections unless he wins. And I would say, as a counterpoint to push back, which is funny coming from the other side, is to say, hey, even though they lost the election, didn't win swing groups the way that they wanted to, lost support with their base, it was still pretty close. And it was still, a message that resonated with people. I don't believe it. I'm with you uh, that to say like, hey, uh, is Trump responsible somewhat for January 6th? Yes, but is he an insurrectionist? Like, did he tell people to storm the Capitol? No, objectively, no.
Right.
But
Right.
they've been having, celebration, well, not celebrations, events every year since January 6th, on January 6th, where Biden's like, this was the darkest day in American history. This is terrible. We can't have this again. Um, and the January 6th hearings, the criminal cases that followed, it became in the minds of Democratic politicians and the leadership like, hey, this is like the worst thing that's ever happened in American history. Um, but also it was a message that did bring out Democrat voters. I think that as a criticism, it just shouldn't have been their lead message and wasn't one that brings in swing voters that you need to win, the moderate voters.
I mean, did you see, and not to like start this, you know, conspiracy theory, but like there were like millions and millions and millions of Democratic voters that just disappeared from last election, right? It's like, was there something funky going on?
Oh, I mean, I've heard that like
Like, where did
in
those voters go?
yeah, I mean,
Why is it
I've
1 year
seen
that they all of a sudden show up and then disappear?
I've seen posts on social media about that, like, look at this county during 2020, during the pandemic, voter, voters voting rates are so high, and then now they're just gone. Something fishy is going
Yeah, I
on.
mean, again, I'm not saying that something fishy did happen, but I mean, if you just look at a chart of like, I don't know, whatever it is, doesn't even have to be voters, and then all of a sudden there's a giant spike and it just like goes right back down. It's like, huh, something happened. Like,
I
what
mean,
was that,
yeah,
right?
of course, Republicans are going to say, hey, evidence of voter fraud. But people are reinterpreting what happened in 2020.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Like literally
and
every like I'm not like the pandemic sucked and the response sucked. Everything sucked about it. And so if people want to change, I get it. I
no,
wanted
yeah,
to
and
change too.
that's
I
what
voted for
Democrat,
Biden.
yeah, no, that's what Republicans are beginning to reinterpret in a more positive light. There's a sense that, hey, 2020 wasn't a rejection of Republican policies
Right.
or the MAGA movement necessarily. It was a rejection of the response of the pandemic and the response to the pandemic. Where especially in in democratic areas, people were very upset with with what the federal government was doing, and it seemed like, especially in the beginning, like, remember those news conferences every day with Trump, and there are some times where he's just not making sense. It's just like gibberish. He's just saying stuff, and then you like wait for Mike Pence, and you'd be like,
Right.
"Oh my God, thank God." He's not giving great details, but at least he's speaking English. Like, no, there
No,
were
I
like
no, I
hilarious moments. He's like, everyone, calm down. Don't just buy things. Everything's gonna be okay. And then and people are sitting in their living rooms being like, how is everything gonna be okay? What's the solution here?
no, I look, I completely agree, right? I think 2020 was a reflection of, and every fucking election is the reflection of the time, right? Um, the pandemic happened, the economy shut down, people weren't allowed to go outside. When they were allowed to go back to like restaurants and stuff, there was a curfew, there was a mandate on the vaccine, there was a lot of stuff going on, and everyone's like, man, I don't like this. I don't like this. Ironically, transparency here, I voted for Biden only because I wanted Biden to fix immigration because I think that Trump, even though the wall was working and or the 20 miles that he built or whatever law he had to, keep people outside unless they snuck in, unless they truly snuck in, nobody was coming in, right? And I have no problem with people sneaking in. Like if there's someone that snuck in and just became a part of society, I'm all for it. They worked hard for it. They had to, nobody wants to do that. But what I don't like that Trump did is he lowered legal immigration. He started to, instead of like 200,000 from China or 100,000 from Mexico or 50,000 from Uganda, he cut those numbers like by 10, 20, 50%. So he's like, do we really need Argentinians here? Let's go ahead and like lower the number of visas, right? And so I'm just thinking like, okay, you're making it harder and harder for legal immigration, which the United States is founded on, and we need more of, legal or illegal. Um, I don't like that, right? So I voted for Biden so he could flip that around. Biden did the opposite, and not only did he not touch legal immigration, but he also allowed these waves of immigrants to come in a manner that should not have happened. Um, but all of that being said, I don't even remember what the original point was. I'm telling you, there's so much here, right? Like there's too much here to discuss. Um, damn it, there's a key message here, and I just keep forgetting my messages here. What were
Well,
we talking?
this is the real conversation. We're not canned or we're not on like mainstream media where we have to promote a certain view. This is just people talking, and I think that's what resonates with people.
No, yeah, but there's a whole objective to this, right? Is Trump literally fucked? Oh yeah, yeah, the election and the moment, right? So pandemic happens, nobody's happy with it, they vote him out, and that's what happened, right? People said, I don't like this, I'm voting him out. The whole reason that I voted for Biden, immigration, yada yada yada. 4 years later, where are we? Immigration is worse off. The economy is in a rut. Like it's hidden because people are like, oh, the stock market, the stock market, the stock market. But the average person in this country does not own stock, right? So that what are you talking about? This is a reflection of the moment where it's like, okay, Trump may be saying batshit crazy things, and he may be offensive, and he may be, I don't know, whatever crazy thing you want to call him. But in the heart of the moment, most people in this country are worse off than they were 4 years ago. And so what happened in 2020? They voted Trump out because they didn't like where they were. What happened in 2024? They voted Biden and Harris out because they don't like where they are. Is Trump really going to fix things? I don't know. Does he have like a solid policy that says this is how we're going to fix things? Personally, I don't think so. But this is the consequence of fucking up, right? Biden really fucked up. He said he was going to fix things. He said he was going to fix the economy, fix the whole pandemic thing, fix immigration, fix student loans, fix healthcare, fix everything. And what did he really do outside of like, more wars overseas? Like it's barely anything. And this leads to the conversation of like what actually happened on election night. And it's just
Yeah,
a reflection of where we are today, and nobody likes it.
and I would add too that as far as Trump resonating and winning on the points that you raised on the economy, yeah, it's like the Democratic messaging is, hey, unemployment's at an all-time low. Like you said,
Yeah.
stocks are high.
Yeah.
Things. We never went into depression. Yeah, we have
We're better than
inflation,
Europe. We're better
but
than
but no
Australia. We're
no
better
one's
than
losing their
this.
jobs. Yeah, we're
Yeah, give me a
we're we're the
fucking
best
break.
among the
Yeah,
G7 countries.
no.
But to the average person, they're like,
Who
hey,
cares?
I might things are unaffordable. Daily life is unaffordable. Prices have gone up so much, and it's a fake message that you're not hearing that I'm suffering. Yeah, we
Yeah.
might not have fallen into a Great Depression again, but things are tough, number one. And with immigration as well as is like, yeah, you came in to have a more compassionate immigration policy, but things are out of control in New York. Like once famously Greg Abbott in Texas started busing migrants to New York, and other southern border states began sending migrants up. In New York, and when shelters were filled, hotels were filled, uh, there was a sense that, hey, this is a real issue. We we don't even know where to place these people, and soon we might even have it, homeless encampments with migrants if things don't come under control.
See,
And
this is
so,
okay. So, all right, continue because I have a
oh yeah, so
huge, huge problem with all of
yeah,
this.
like each candidate wants to say, "Hey, I'm going to be so successful. We're going to really change things."
Right.
But I think it's a simpler question to the voter. They're saying, "Hey, will things be different
Right.
in the next administration?"
Right.
Or do I want something different? Because the numbers for Biden have been so bad. I believe it's like 70 to 75% of Americans nationwide believe that America is on the wrong track.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I think it's even a simpler question. Like we don't even need to get into policy specifics, um, uh, the messaging, the characters of these politicians. I think voters just want something different. If it successful or not, what's happening right now is not the right way that the country should be going, I think is one of the strong messages that voters gave.
Yeah, and I mean, this is why I was pushing back on you a little bit about the whole policy thing, right? Like, oh, the policy, and then the trust. And it's like, well, no, in my viewpoint, it's more of, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And are we going in the right path? I think if you're okay and you're doing good and you're well off and comfortable and all that good stuff, and they say, hey, we need to like help these people that are worse off, 9 out of 10, I think, would be like, yeah, that's fine. Let's help them, you know? But if you are literally worse off and struggling and suffering, and then all of a sudden at the same time, they're like, well, we're also going to give these people a ton of money because, they're immigrants. No, that's not going to fly. That will absolutely not fly. And that was the mistake of the Democrats. Like, if the Democrats really wanted to win, in my opinion, they would have come in and said, okay, forget the last 4 years. We fucked up. And here's how we fucked up. And here's what we're going to do to like right the ship. We have to right the ship. Instead, they're just like, well, Donald Trump is evil, Nazi, threat to democracy. Don't vote for him. And it's like, well, hang on. I'm struggling to pay for groceries. What are you going to do to fix it? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat Donald Trump because he's a fascist. And it's like, okay, you're not listening. I cannot afford groceries. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to beat Donald Trump because he's a threat. And it's like, okay, what the fuck are you talking about? You've lost us, right? There was no message of accountability and solution. And it's not to say that Donald Trump offered some sort of like golden key for the country. All he said was, we're in a bad place and we're gonna go somewhere better. And that was enough just to acknowledge that we are in a bad place. That's all it was.
I no, I really agree with that, and I think that was one of the great errors of the Democratic campaign is what you said, which is they the Democratic campaign didn't take a stand. It wasn't clear whether it was going to be the same administration, something different, and some of the quotes from um, Kamala Harris were like really showed this. Like there was a question on The View where Harris was at, "Hey, what if anything will you do differently if you were in office?" It's like, and she replied, "Nothing really comes to mind." And then at a
Yeah.
CNN town hall, Anderson Cooper at the end of the campaign was like, "Have you made any mistakes? Uh, can you list any mistakes?" You know, kind of asking, "Hey, you made a mistake. Would you fix something, do something different?" And then Harris was like, "Well, nothing comes to mind." So she's like, uh, there was just no sense that there was any sort of, like you said, um, uh, admission that things were not going well and some sort of solution to it. And the only clear message was Trump is a threat to democracy. He's doing everything bad, and we're going to get, Roe v. Wade re-implemented on a national
Right.
level. That's
I
not going to
mean,
win the moderate swing voters that you need. That may get your base out, but is not going to win the election.
right, right. No, the Democrats were just beyond stupid. But they wanted to lean on Trump as an evil person. Do not let him get into power because it's the end of the world. And at the same time, once he wins, hey, Donald Trump's going to come to the White House. He's going to have lunch. We're all going to smile. We're all going to be happy and have a happy transition of power. And it's like, well, I could have sworn that 2 weeks ago you told me that the world will come to an end if Donald Trump wins.
I had the same thing. I'm
Like,
like,
what happened
when
now?
they
Like,
did the
why are you letting
photo.
him into the White House? Like, what is
When
going
you had the
on?
photo shoot, like in the White House, that was like crazy. Like Biden has spent years saying, this guy is, most horrible insurrectionist ever, terrible. He's a dictator. He's a fascist. And then they shake hands in the Oval Office, like it's a normal, just the end of a normal campaign. Things were said, but, it's all good. And then Harris's concession speech, she's like, sometimes things are dark, but when they're dark, you can see stars. And I'm looking at, of course, was not a Harris supporter, but I'm like, you're saying this to your supporters? You just said like democracy was about to end, our country was coming to an end,
And that he was
and a dictator is coming to
Hitler.
power right now,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, it's over, um, bye bye,
Again,
um.
2008, everybody said that about Barack Obama, but John McCain refused to say stuff like that.
Mhm.
John McCain refused to go to that level. You fast forward to 2024, Harris is saying it, Biden is saying it, and it's like, what happened?
Well,
Like, what
well,
happened?
it resonates with voters. And look, yeah, Democrats didn't win, but let's go back to the very beginning and how we got to where we are. Uh, Biden drops out, Harris comes in. She announces no specific policies. We don't know anything about her. She clinches all the delegate support, and then all of a sudden there's $1 billion of donations. Her ranking in the poll skyrockets to the point where is even or exceeding Trump without doing anything. And
Yeah.
that really shows that, hey, that was the consideration from the campaign where it's like, hey, we just need to ride this out. We don't need to do anything crazy, not rock the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Look, just Harris, getting the delegates and announcing that she's now the candidate. She didn't do anything, uh, and now she's on track to win. And I think that one of the issues with the failure of the Democrat campaign was they were it was so risk averse, both in how Kamala and Tim Walz were speaking, as well as the policies they put forward. Like um, um, uh, there was a economic policy, but it was like highly criticized, and I don't know that there were any major policies after that. Like there was an economic platform where Harris said, "Oh, we have inflation, so we'll go after price gougers." But the criticism is like, what does that really mean?
Like
Will
how?
that fix inflation? Are you going to fix prices? Do we really think inflation is because businesses are just artificially uh, jacking up prices? Um, I think that in the end, voters probably said no to that. But then she's like, "Oh yeah, we'll have new business tax credit and uh, first home tax credit, first home purchase tax credit, and a new child tax credit." These were all criticized for, is this really a solution to our economic issues, and how are you going to pay for it? And then after that, I don't remember any new policies. And the position is we're doing okay, and we shouldn't rock the boat anymore because we'll be criticized for um how do we support our new policies, and also we don't want to offend anyone because we're the great moralists. We're not like people that play in the gutter like the Republicans. So we'll just keep calling Trump a fascist and win that way.
Yeah, in my head, it comes down to this. Election night comes. The Democrats had to play defense because the country as a whole is in a much worse off state um than it was 2, 3 years ago, right? So if things have been getting worse for the last 2, 3 years, 4 years, um, you have explaining to do because you were in charge. So if you're a challenger, all you really have to do is say, "Hey, this sucks. Can everyone agree that this sucks?" And everyone's gonna be like, "Well, yeah, this does suck. Okay, cool. Let's do things differently." And they're like, "Okay, that sounds nice." Do you have to be specific? No. Do you really have to like and this is where I'll push back. I don't think Trump had too many specific policies, but he did have enough where it's like immigrants out, uh China out. We're gonna fight back, right? Like they're stealing our shit. We're gonna push back. Taxes, tariffs, whatever it may be, we'll push back. Um,
And like bring an end to American involvement in
right.
the wars in,
Overseas wars,
yeah,
right?
Ukraine especially. No, we're gonna fix it.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring peace to the region.
So when the state of the nation is in a very bad spot, it's very easy to come in and be like, hey, I'm going to do things different. Now, if Biden had been a more effective president and negotiated with these companies to be like, hey, you know what? You can only raise prices by so much. Um, and if you really are suffering because of the pandemic and because of the supply chain and COVID and all of those stuff, show us the evidence and we'll pay you. The government will pay you, right? Because I mean, we use tax dollars for everything. Why not use tax dollars to ease the pain on the citizens? But he didn't do any of that. All he did was say, well, these companies are evil, they're bad, they're charging too much. It's really not inflation. It's really not this. It's really corporate greed. It's like, okay, cool. If it's truly corporate greed, what did you do to mitigate for that? And the answer is nothing. So it's very easy to have someone come in and say, shit is fucked up, vote for me because I will not do the same. Versus Kamala and company saying, no, 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 no. Everything is fine. We just got to stay the course. And it's like, well, if we're all suffering, do we really want to stay that course? And that's all it was. I don't think it's because people were racist. I don't think it's because Trump is like a savior. I don't think sexism came into play. I don't think racism came into play at the end of the day. Like it was more just like if we're all worse off, why would you just want to keep the same path? And it just doesn't make sense.
No, it's true, but yeah, and then it goes to who did the Democrats win and who did the Republicans win? I mean, the base of the Democrats is now, college educated, um, uh, people in the middle class doing well, but the
Yeah.
working class,
Yeah.
the majority of America, the working man, working woman,
The ones who
those
are
are the
really
ones that,
suffering today.
yeah, those are the that are living paycheck to paycheck, feel like their wealth is decreasing dramatically by the rise of prices. Those are the ones that drifted in favor of Trump.
Yeah. And then when you have like George Clooney and I don't know, Taylor Swift and whoever it is telling you like, hey, you got to vote for this person because you gotta. And it's like, wait a minute, why are these celebrities telling me all of this, right? Not to say that the Republicans don't have their own fucking celebrities, but it just wasn't as pronounced. And again, I honestly, the media, they have such a fucking big role in this. And I think the media, at the end of the day, while trying to help the Democrats, hurt the Democrats.
Yeah, I would agree. Like that became just like at the end of um uh the whatever Hillary campaign, the Harris campaign relied on celebrities and celebrity endorsements and promoting that. And it's just something that doesn't win elections. Um, uh, I
Right.
think the voters that you want to get are the ones that want to see solutions. And like you said, like this election shows once again that hey, uh, you know, T Taylor Swift can endorse Harris the night she has a, solid debate performance where I think that most people polled said that, hey, Harris won that debate. But in the end, it just, it falls out of the mix when you actually go to vote. And this actually reminds me of a different issue where I think that the Democrats this time and fell into the same trap that they did in 2016, where I remember following the 2016 campaign. Now it's been some time. I forgot about specific policy proposals on Hillary's side, but I remember one of the issues was to me Hillary's fatal flaw was she was always against something. She was always against Trump and
Mm.
Trump's policies. But I don't recall in public statements, in the debate, in the just general messaging. I'm not going to go on the website. I have a life.
You're not gonna go
I
check
want
out a
to hear it
website
from
for a whole
them.
day.
Yeah, I'm not gonna read the policy platforms. I want to hear it from the candidate. Hillary's fatal flaw, I believe, was she was always against something and not for something. And it repeat this time around where everything was
Don't rock the boat.
anti-Trump. Yeah, everything was Trump is bad, his policies are bad, but there was no sort of uh, positive message to say, hey, things are going to change and I'm going to do X differently and we're going to fix the problems of the last 4 years. So it was,
Yeah.
you're always against something when you're not for something, and that can be a major flaw in a campaign.
Yeah, again, I think if the economy was like really strong, they could pull that off. Like, hey, fuck this dude, he's crazy. Let's stay the course. And I guarantee the Democrats would have easily won that. I don't care if it's Kamala or whoever you want to put in the ticket, they would have won if the economy was really healthy. But because inflation kicked in and some of these prices are just bonkers, right? It's like roast beef just a few years ago, New York City was like 11.99. You go to the same store and it's at 19.99. I'm just like, wait a minute. I have to pay almost double because my salary sure as hell did not double in the
No,
last
yeah,
couple of years.
to that point, like I feel like I'm going to the same grocery store where things only like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was like half of what it is now.
Right. I like to buy organic, free range eggs, blah, 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 because I support, you know, healthier eggs, healthier chickens, sustainability, yada, yada, yada. I'll admit that. I used to pay like $8 tops for like local good eggs, right? Now I'm looking at like 11.99. So now all of a sudden I'm like, well, what if I just get some slightly cheaper eggs, right? So the whole point is, yeah, inflation rates may be going down, but those prices have not gone down whatsoever. So if someone who has a good job like myself is looking at these prices and going, holy shit, this is crazy. What about the people that are literally in the middle class who have not gotten any sort of like decent help, decent raise, decent bonus, decent anything, and you're looking at those prices? How are you going to look at Kamala Harris and be like, oh, you want to continue down this path? Yeah, that sounds great. Count me in. Like, fuck that.
No,
Fuck that.
and for sure. And while the Democrat talking point was, hey, employment's, only at whatever, 3%, 4% is, on a macro level, we're doing great. Credit card debt and and uh you know uh personal loans, it has skyrocketed. So in some ways, people are relying on borrowing to sustain their lifestyle. And going back to, you know, that sort of sentiment, they're like, hey, we're I'm using my credit card to like get through the now, but when does this end? This is
Yeah.
not looking good.
So to that point, the second half of this conversation is what happens next. Like, what do you really think that is possible for Donald Trump to like really take this country and be like, you know what, we're gonna fix this? Because in my head, as someone that did not vote for him, but also did not vote for Kamala, it's like, okay, let's see what happens. It's like a Hail Mary, right? Because it's like fourth down and 20, and Kamala was like a run down the middle, right? Like, yeah, they could burst into like, and this is like football term for those that are not familiar, but someone could run for 20 yards and get a first down, and it'd be a miracle. Versus Trump is like Well, just call something else. Just don't run it down the middle. If it's 4th and 20, don't run it down the middle. Now, what play are they going to call? I don't know. I honestly don't know. So, what do you think will happen now that Donald Trump has won? He has the House. He has pretty much what the whole Congress, right? The
Mhm.
Republicans won everything.
So what I would think and what I would probably suggest is stick to the main messaging of, hey, we're going to try to improve the economy
But
and we're going
how?
to
Like,
go
like, what are
back
they
to,
gonna do?
well, what I expect them to do is say, hey, well, like he said this on the campaign trail, but we're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to reduce the price of energy by exploiting the resources that we have in America.
We've
And
already like I sorry to like interrupt, but like the US has already increased production of oil and natural gas over the last couple of years, right? Like we've already increased that. So I'm not sure
well,
like what more we can do.
no, well, I mean, I'm not so fluent on it the expected effects, but the idea is, hey, if we can reduce gas prices, that will reduce the prices on the supply chain. So once, you know, you someone goes in and buys a product, it's going to be cheaper. But that's like a very specific policy. He'll also be saying, hey, we're going to continue our tax cuts from the prior administration, and maybe we'll cut some more. And then we'll cut uh, uh, the spending of the federal government so that we can reduce taxes. And we'll remove regulations on businesses in the type of way that was done in the first administration, which will create an environment where people want to expand business and create businesses. So I think that that would be the economic policies that the administration will want to put forward. And then on immigration, it will be the same policies on steroids and uh, where they will build the wall and maybe they will use military forces at the border.
Well, it's funny
Uh,
because like Kamala at the end of her campaign was like, "Yeah, we should build a barrier," and it's like, you mean a wall?
Right, and like that was a
Like
thing
what?
from the Republican side. It's like you used to call the wall a vanity project and like
Right,
ridiculous,
right.
but now that the public has embraced sh stronger immigration rules, you're flip-flopping to like the opposite.
I think for me, my real question, and look, I've seen interviews since the election, and the new border czar or whatever his name is. I mean, they've made it pretty clear, right? Priority are criminals, and that's how it should be, right? As an immigrant myself, and has had relationships with many, 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 and many, 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 many. I sound like Donald Trump at this point, but many more immigrants than you could ever imagine. The most immigrants. I think we would all agree that if you are out there breaking crimes, you should probably not be here. Plain and
Right.
simple.
No, I mean like
And I
that's
think that
the
that's going to be his number one priority, right? Now, I'm not, and I saw an interview with the new border czar. He's like, look, if you're a criminal, like we're gonna come after you. And if you are hiding with other immigrants, then there'll be casualties, you know? And that's how it's been in the past. And I know this because I've lived it, right? Like my parents and people that we knew in the space. Hey, what happened to whatever? Well, there was a bust, and everybody in that house had to go. Oh, what happened? Well, one of them got caught cheating or got caught using a fake whatever, right? And so that gives the government a reason to go and find you. And so his whole response was like, yeah, if you break a crime and we find you and we break in and everybody in there is illegal, everyone's gone. And I don't want that to happen to innocent people that have come here and worked their asses off and are paying sales taxes and all that stuff. I think they should stay, right? But goes back to the point. If you're a criminal, you gotta fuck you, get the fuck out. Do not steal, do not hurt, do not do any of that shit. And if you do, get out. And this is it's never easy. This is not an easy conversation. But if you are stealing, if you are breaking other laws, then you gotta fucking go, man.
Right. And I think that where where Trump himself, and he gets credit for this, is he's changed the discourse on immigration. Because I feel like before Trump, especially before Trump, the idea of even saying enforcing border rules and immigration laws, it was like um, it, it was as if you were a racist. Like you're only doing that to push down minority groups, but in the end, everyone's good, and we can just have an open border. I think Trump changed it in the opposite direction to say, "Hey, we're going to have um, rules, and we want immigration, but it needs to be legal immigration through a process." And I expect that, yeah, they'll begin with um, those that have committed crimes, especially violent crimes, but it will be a more aggressive immigration enforcement policy because uh, the government the new administration will want to send a message like it did in the first term to say, hey, uh, don't come to the US, not just because in words, but there's no incentive for you to come because we will find you. You can't just arrive at a border crossing or an airport and say you're uh, asylum applicant,
Yeah,
you're in
seeking
fear of your life,
asylum.
and we just let you in. That's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, this is my question, right? Is like, what is going to happen next? Because do I think he's going to deport every single fucking illegal immigrant? No, he's not going to do that. Because let's be real. They're cooking our food, washing our dishes, picking our fruit, building our houses. It's an essential uh, piece of American society. And the benefit at the end of the day is we get to pay them less, but they make more than they would at their home country. It's a disgusting relationship, but it's a real one, right? Like it whether you like it or not, it's there. Are they going to deport all of them? No. Um, I don't know. Like what
Where I see it going is um they'll uh, the where I see it going is they're going to create border security. They're going to build that wall finally
yeah.
and
Yeah.
de-incentivize illegal immigration.
Yeah.
And there'll never be zero illegal immigration, but have it under control.
Right.
And
Like it
then
used to
once,
be. Like it used to
yeah,
be like, oh, if you snuck in because you snuck in. It wasn't just approach the wall and be like, "Hello, I'm seeking asylum." Okay, come on in.
right. Or you get caught, crossing the border illegally and then released with the court date. And they'll probably never show up for that court date. Let's be honest. Um,
And then not only
s-
that, but the whole busing thing, the fact that Joe Biden let all of that happen, and it's like, oh, well, does Joe Biden really have the power to stop these states from shipping people? It's like, yeah, he does because immigration is a federal fucking crime, right? Like that's a federal thing. It is the federal government who has to protect the fucking country from external threats.
Hmm. Oh,
Absolutely has the power to like
right.
stop all this shit, and he didn't do it. So fuck
Yeah.
him. Fuck him for that.
So, yeah,
Oh man, don't get me started on that.
where I see things going is they'll immigration will get under will become get under control by greater border security. There'll there'll be changes to the immigration process where um, asylum applicants can be processed much quicker. There can be a greater, like, quicker vetting of legal immigrants. And then it will be the final question of what do we do with illegal immigrants within the US? And I think that if, it's a if because it feels like so far off, but if border security becomes something that is feels like is within control and that the American government has control of, I think that on the conservative side, there would possibly be movement to say, hey, there will be a path to citizenship for those that have not broken any laws, that pay taxes, that are, hardworking people, but have illegal immigration status. I think that that may be a compromise that might happen, but only after there is strong border security and the flow of people into the U.S. feels like it's under control and it's something that border security is strong and is something that won't fade away, won't change. And I think at that point there might be a compromise to say, hey, for those that are within the U.S. and aren't causing mayhem, hey, there is a way to get either status or citizenship.
That'll be a tough sell just because of the economics and having to pay people minimum wage and stuff like that. But I agree. Like step one, secure the border, right? And then you can start negotiating anything. Um, what about economically? How do you help people, just your average family of three or four that are making 80K a year? How do you help them out? Because prices aren't
Well,
going down.
yeah, I think the first thing is it will go back to, hey, we're gonna um make sure that you have a job, like the whole thing with tariffs and
Well,
preventing jobs from
unemployment is
go
super down,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Unemployment's not going to go any lower.
so they'll continue those old policies of saying reinvestment in America, and maybe it might be that. So it will be, hey, we're gonna reduce taxes. We're gonna incentivize businesses to
But do
create
you really
better
think that they're going
jobs.
to lower taxes on the middle class?
I mean, well, it's yet to be seen. I mean, the argument against the tax cuts, in the first administration was it didn't trickle down to the average person. But I think that if it is true that inflation is the rate of inflation is coming down, that's why we're reducing interest rates. It may be that the government just needs to create a business-friendly environment and let um, things play its course and uh, make sure that the rate of inflation doesn't go up, that it keeps coming down.
Yeah, but
But
I
yeah,
mean,
it's hard to say like
to what we just said, right? Is like, yeah, the inflation rate may be going down, but that roast beef that was 11.99 and is now 19.99, it's not going to go back down. They're going to keep it at 19.99.
right.
So stimulating the economy, how will that help their average shopper is what I'm
Yeah.
curious
Yeah,
about.
I don't know. Uh, I I don't know that we have any specific one-to-one sort of policy solutions.
Yeah.
But it's just making sure that the environment is such that we don't have inflationary spending and we don't keep printing money and we don't have situations where we have to raise taxes. So that's what I think what the federal government can do, at least what we would expect in the next in the coming years.
Yeah. So Republicans may not have like the silver bullet or the golden egg to like solve all issues, but on the Democratic side, what do they do to kind of make a comeback, if you want to call it that, after this wallop of an election?
Yeah, I think that the Democrats need to uh, decide what policies do they want to support and what policies would not be emphasized so much. I think it's like going back to the campaign, the main issue was abortion rights. It may be like abortion rights won't be a major policy or uh, social change policies, societal change policies, social issues might not be major policy platforms to promote in the near future. They might want to go back to, hey, economic policies, what can we do to help the working class that the Democrats seem to have lost over the last couple elections? And going back to, policies that um, everyday people might agree with. And so it might just be that. But I think that the concern is in Democratic leadership, it how these how we got to where we are is it became like quote identity politics to be like, for trans rights or for abortion rights and for gay rights. And then those sort of policies became too dominant such that they Democrats may have lost um the uh the average targeted swing voter that they would need to win. So I think it needs to be a reevaluation of what policies are they going to lead with. It's fine, I think, for the Democrats to have um, abortion rights policies, especially on the state level, to say, hey, we'll go state by state, and while conservatives are trying to ban abortion in certain states now, we'll try to put ballot initiatives like we haven't in the last elections and try to um, safeguard abortion rights on the state level, but not have that be the lead issue. Kind of like for Trump, he's said he's pro-life. He says he's pro Second Amendment, pro gun, but it's not the lead issue. Um,
Right,
it,
right, right.
it, you have like very clearly economy, immigration, um, foreign policy as the main issues, but I can't remember any gun rights legislation that was like really pushed in the first administration. Same thing with with regards to abortion. I can't like he was for overturning Roe v. Wade, but as far as like there's talk of a nationwide ban or uh, nationwide abortion restrictions. I think that he's been purposely not clear because he's not for like pushing those social policies. And for gay rights, trans rights, the LGBT issues, like he's for traditional families, but I can't remember um any push in the first administration for like, traditional families, being against trans rights or gay rights. It might change in this administration. It wasn't a lead issue, and it stayed at the main issues that may have won him, probably won him the election.
No, I think that's a really, really good call out in terms of his whole message was fix the economy, immigration, safety, all that good stuff that like affects you day to day. He was not going around saying, "Hey, nobody should get an abortion." And that's my main subject, right? And again, you know, to circle back, I really do think it's the circumstances that we are in. If everybody was better off, if everybody was comfortable, if everybody was happy, I think you can make some of these social issues a main subject, right? Like, hey, we want to protect our LGBTQ plus 7QR, whatever it is, you know, brothers and sisters, and whatever they want to identify as. We want to make sure we protect them and we care about them and they feel as part of our society. But when everyone is suffering, that's not top of mind. That is absolutely not top of mind. It's like, hey, we're all suffering, but we're also gonna send money to like Uganda. And it's like, well, yeah, we care about Uganda and we care about these other like poor countries, but also can we take care of ourselves first? And I think that that was part of the mistake that the Democrats did. And I think that that's why it's a hard message to sell when you're talking about abortion and trans and gay and other social issues where it's like, look, we don't want to hurt anybody, but can we at least buy eggs first before we start having these conversations? And I think that's where we were in 2024. And hopefully in 2028, we're in such a good spot that, yeah, like we don't have to think about immigration and we don't have to think about the economy. We can focus on more first world problems of like giving equality and giving opportunity and giving whatever to everybody, right? Like more social type of stuff and not basic can I afford to live issues.
No, definitely agreed. Uh, uh, and I think that's what the soul searching that the Democratic Party uh will be doing, because like to push, let's say, the controversial trans issue, should boys or men be in girls or women's bathrooms or play on women's sports. I think that I've seen a poll where it says 80% of Americans are against like any changes to the status quo with with regards to these issues. Doesn't mean necessarily like 80% is like, fuck trans people.
Right,
But they're
right,
like,
right,
this isn't
right,
a
right.
priority. We're not looking for change. And is this really a major issue that we need to spend national time on now, where you say like people can't afford things, people are hurting economically. Maybe in other circumstances, uh, we can have a national debate on this, but not now's maybe not the time. Kind of
Yeah.
like I think it was like 2004 Bush v. Kerry, where Bush won, and the lead issue in that election was social issues because Bush was about social conservatism, like faith-based initiatives where government would help fund like um, um, religious institutions and their programs. He was against stem cell research, against progressive social change. And at that time, yeah, there was the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq really hurting its poll numbers, but I think circumstances were such that people, vote supporters of Bush, said, "Hey, social values at this time are important to me, and we will vote on that."
Yeah, it's all it's just knowing your audience at the like where are they, right? Like you and I both work in corporate and if you have to talk to someone, you have to know who they are and what language to use, right? If they're brand new to this subject, You don't go in there with acronyms left and right and just be like, you get it, right? It's like, no, 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 no,
Right.
no. Same thing here, right? If people are not economically strong, then you have to go talk to them and be like, hey, let's help out. Like, let us help you out. Um, and if people are economically strong and everyone's happy, then yeah, we can start picking and choosing more and more specific social issues that we can like all support, or most of us will support. Um, yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, it's just the Democrats did not have anything to say about this economy and how difficult it is to navigate. And if they are literally saying we're going to do the exact same thing as the last couple of years where everyone's worse off, that's not a winning message at all. So, anyways, James, no, I really appreciate you coming on and talking in depth about this election because I think that there was so much, right? And you coming from, your perspective, what is your best hope? Where do you think that we'll be in 4 years? Like honestly, like how do you see this like panning out?
Well, I think the easier questions are probably foreign policy, and then we can loop back to, the more difficult things domestically, where, we have the whole discussion on economically, what can the government do? It's, yet to be seen. But I think with foreign policy, you had talked about it a little bit. Um, eh, Democrats and Republicans are both about countering China. But Trump's, I think, the only one to really be aggressive to say, "Hey, we will enact tariffs. We will counter China in any specific way." I'm not clear how the Biden administration really did anything different. They kept the old Trump tariffs going, but I
Yeah,
don't know that there was any change in confronting the rise of China and their increasing dominance in the Asia Pacific region. So I think that things will become much more confrontational between the U.S. and China.
agreed.
With regards to uh, the Israel Hamas war slash the Israel Hezbollah war slash the Israeli Iranian war. Like there's direct attacks against all these different people with like
Slash
the
poor
Houthis in
Gaza
Yemen.
just getting
Yeah, it's
bombed
like
left and right. It's just
um, like the Biden administration wanted it both ways. It's like, yeah, we support Israel until, and we will give weapons, but you should be giving more relief to Gaza, but
yeah,
you're
like
not doing
hey,
that.
we'll give
I
like $10 to Gaza to rebuild, but also here's $2 billion to Israel to go bomb the shit out of them.
I think the foreign policy of America, for better or for worse, will be clear, where it's like Trump will be unequivocally for Israel, but will that be beneficial for world peace? Possibly, because Trump might go in and say, "Hey, we're going to increase our arms to Israel, increase our funding for Israel." Maybe the forces against Israel might back down, or it might bring these conflicts to a quicker solution. Because
Yeah.
I remember before, like after um, the uh, October attacks on Israel, like Biden sent like warships and like an aircraft carrier to the region. It was like, don't. But then to Iran and say, don't, inflame the situation and attack Israel. Now we've had like direct attacks and like, Iranian proxies attacking Israel, and uh, the U.S. foreign policy wasn't really clear on how to deal with that. I think that now it might be clearer, and it may, benefit the situation to bring these conflicts to a close. And then with Ukraine, the Biden administration was very much for funding the Ukrainian resistance against the invasion by Russia. I expect that the new administration will probably say, "Hey, we're not gonna give you $0, with the next budget request, but you have to have a clear um, vision for how this war is going to come to a conclusion." It seems
Yeah.
like you're just fighting and not regaining the territory that was lost. You might want to consider ceding territory, having a formal peace that's recognized, where Putin can go like remain in power and say, "Hey, I won the war. I got territory, but not
Yep.
all the territory." And then Ukraine begin continues to stand, and NATO countries, especially the U.S., no longer have to fund this war. So I expect that would be probably the next step. And Trump hasn't been so clear about it, but he's like, yeah, I'll end the war on day one. But that's probably what's going to happen. It's like no more unlimited funding from the United States. We'll maybe give you some more funding, but you have to, you know, you can't just spend our money. You need to have a clear direction on where this is going. We can't just keep funding year after year.
Yeah, I'll agree with everything there. Domestically, immigration, do you think they'll deport most of the illegals that jumped over?
Well, I think that thing will become aggressive. Like, um, will border security will be, paramount. We'll see that wall. There will be probably very significant deportations. Probably, unfortunately, well, I mean, uh, 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 fortunately or unfortunately, capturing, good people that aren't committing crimes, but it will more send a message to say, hey, it will de-incentivize people to from crossing the border. It within conservative circles, it's like I know that America's different and it's a nation of immigrants, it's a compassionate country, but I feel like in most countries, if you cross the border illegally, you're risking your life. Like, there's gonna be a guy in a tower that can like shoot you, kill you, and that's not against the law. Is that not
Yeah,
true?
no, yeah, but I mean, to counter that, we're not them,
No, I know
right?
that we're not them.
And
We're a compassionate.
it goes back to the whole economic thing, right? Yeah, our inflation rate's slightly lower than everyone else, so we should all be happy. And it's like, well, no, back to the same thing, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we're not shooting people, so we should be okay. Well, no, like we have to solve our own shit, right? And I don't think we should be complacent that we're just letting people in and that anything else like that. It's like, okay, how do we solve this, right? And so the back to the original question is like, do we deport all of these people? Like, do you think that that'll actually happen?
I think that I think that immigration like enforcement within the United States will become um, you know, will go on steroids compared to what it is now.
Yeah,
But as far as having zero illegal immigrants within the United States is not a, I
realistic
don't
and
know, realistic goal,
yeah,
especially within 4 years. But it will, if anything, as I think the goal is once again just to send the message to de-incentivize illegal immigration, to say, hey, if you come here, you will be caught and you will be deported. It's kind of interesting because I saw a 60 minute segment. Um, I think it was maybe like it wasn't recent, maybe 2, 3 years ago about the southern border. And there's parts of the southern border where there's a fence, but there's a hole in the fence, and then
right,
people just go through. And then the 60 Minutes reporter is like, "Hey, do you know like you just see streams of people going through?" And then they ask the migrants, "Hey, do you know what you're doing is wrong and that this is illegal?" Of course it's illegal. You can't just go into someone else's country, But if no one's guarding the fence, I don't really think that I've done anything morally wrong. It's
So and this is a personal question, and if you don't want to answer it, I get it, but if someone were to, let's say that Trump comes in, builds the wall, builds security, all that other stuff, right? And then someone does sneak in. 5 years later, they get caught with zero offense, zero anything. They've worked, they've paid taxes. Do you think that they should be deported?
I mean, uh, I I think that this is uh, not to dodge your
Just out of,
question, but
yeah.
yeah,
Just out of
it would be
curiosity.
yes, yes,
Okay.
because ultimately, yeah, look, they're probably not a bad person. I think that many, if not most, illegal immigrants that have illegal status are not probably not bad people, but
Mm-hmm.
it is uh, a crime to be in the country without official papers. And like I can say, I hate when people pull like, personal stories where you can't rebut them, and if you do
Yeah.
challenge them, they get all offended. But, I spent, nearly 2 years in China. I spent like 5 to 6 months in the UK. I, once again, I'm privileged. I'm not like, uh, went there because I needed to or I needed a job. But the idea of overstaying one's visa because you wanted to and you just didn't want to get another one or do the paperwork or break any of the laws of a local country, China, the UK, or any other country that I travel to, it's crazy. If there's a law that you don't agree with in another country, you have to follow it. So the idea that people can just cross borders in any country, even if they're a good person, doesn't make it legal and doesn't mean that there aren't consequences. And that's the
Right.
thing is, I'm it's a difficult thing because we're on two sides of the same issue where, yeah, I don't think that hypothetical person is probably a bad person, but there are consequences to actions. Like, um, for example, I don't believe smoking weed is a immoral thing. But if you're caught with weed in a state that it's against
Deemed
the law,
illegal.
yeah, it's illegal. There are consequences. I don't think you're a morally bad person. I don't think they should throw you in prison and throw away the key, but there are consequences because it's against that state's law.
No,
So
yeah. I
that's
mean,
kind of where I come down on it. So I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm it's not a moral thing, but it's still against the law, and it's not directed at maybe any one individual, but
right,
it's trying
right,
to
right.
solve a national slash international problem.
Yeah, I mean, I completely respect where you're coming from, and it's hard to argue that says no, you don't have to follow the law, right? Like, no, yeah, we all have to. There are rules, right?
No, but I mean, coming from the left point of view, and I've had colleagues that have said this, friends that have said this, like, we essentially we should have an open border. If people, struggled
Well,
on the in caravans, crossing through jungles, crossing rivers, and got to the border, well, God bless, let them in. We have enough space for everyone. Um, I've had people say that to me.
no,
Uh,
100%. I mean, look, my buddy, he used to work at the border, and he was like, man, some of these people have hiked God knows how many miles. If anything, we need to like gather them up and put them in the military because that's the type of person that we need in the military. Someone that can withstand these harsh conditions, who can withstand. you know, and endure dangerous terrains and all sort of stuff. And he was like, that's what we should be doing, right? Like, hey, we got you. Also, you're now part of the military. Stay in the military for X amount of years, and we'll give you citizenship. Um, do we need like completely open borders? No, I don't think we need that, but we also need to be realistic in the sense of the more people we have in this country, the better,
No, and I agree
right?
with that, but there is limits, and what we're seeing are also the fight back for negative consequences from illegal immigration. But I'd also, if we're look at things internationally, something that resonated in my own thinking is watching what happened to the EU uh, during the Syrian civil war. Because during the Syrian civil war, there were, um, uh, you know, anti-dictatorship, moderate elements that wanted to get rid of President Assad and were rebelling part of the Arab Spring. The armed conflicts, use of chemical weapons by the government against the people, and people, and normal people probably, you know, uh, great people never broke the law or anything, were fleeing as refugees to the EU. And the EU at the beginning was like, hey, we'll take people in. Angela Merkel was like, if you can make it, we'll take you in. But eventually it became too much for the EU countries. And then eventually they closed the border.
Yeah, but we're
Uh,
discussing an unnatural migration, right?
no, that's true. It's not one for one. That's
Right.
that's an armed
And
conflict.
that's
Those
literally
are
what happened. That's literally
real
what happened in New York,
real
right?
refugees. It's different, but those are people fleeing a war, and still the EU, closed the border. Here we have migrants that I think in large part are just looking for, better social and economic circumstances and aren't in that life and death sort of situation necessarily. I mean, there are, asylum seekers, but I think the vast majority are just looking for a better life.
No, yeah, 100%. And I think that illegal immigration will go way down if we increased our efficiency and allotted numbers of immigrants from other countries, right?
Right. No, and
All we have
that's
to do is say, you know what? You really want to come here? Fill this out. Show us that you're like decent people. You've never been arrested, or if you have been arrested, it's been because of XYZ, and we will consider you.
right.
And our
No,
numbers will allow this many from your country, and we'll make exceptions for XYZ and like have a due process that allows these people to come in.
and that's the two sides of why there's been such, I think, gridlock in the immigration issue. Because on the one hand, both sides are kind of right, where the left wants to have much more streamlined, quicker immigration
Not
processing.
necessarily
Uh,
streamlined, but just
yeah,
an actual process, right?
and then Republicans are all like build a wall, border security, but it's really both. But
100%.
um, but the left doesn't want to give money for the wall, or at least didn't
Well, yeah, I mean, that's because they've
in the
been dumb as shit
last Trump administration, and then
until now when
Republicans are
Kamala
like,
is like,
we're
yeah,
we're not
build the
gonna
wall.
we're not gonna give money for a better process and immigration judges if you don't give us border security. So it's just been like this deadlocked sort of conflict.
Yeah, I don't know why the Democrats are so dumb sometimes. Like if I was a Democrat, I'd be like, yo, give them the wall. That's fine, but let's actually talk about real immigration, right?
And it goes to what happened during the Biden administration. I think the Democratic Party has gone probably too far left on immigration, where they rescinded all of Trump's executive orders.
Yeah.
And then it just became like, hey, you a kind of an unregulated border, but we're a compassionate nation, so we'll do that. Meanwhile, states and cities are like, hey, we have all these migrants. We need to like process them, give them at least temporary housing, healthcare, that sort of stuff. And the federal government gives $0 to anyone.
Right,
And
right, right,
and
right.
that was whatever the issue here in New York City, where it's like Mayor Adams and maybe I don't know if there was any public statements, but lobbying from federal officials or higher level officials like Governor Hochul and I don't know if any of the New York senators did it, but there's like, hey, if we're going to get migrants, we need money, but the federal government keeps denying requests to uh, fund uh, migrant issues in local situations. I would guess probably because if one city or state gets money, all the other places will ask for money, and there's not enough money to go around.
Yeah. Again, this is one of the biggest um flaws of the Biden administration that I would say is the allowance of these human beings to be shipped all over the country with little to no control. And that's not how immigration normally works, right? Like people shouldn't be getting into whether you're from Cuba landing in Florida or from Mexico into San Diego or Texas or Canadians into fucking Minnesota, right? You don't grab them and just ship them off to New York City. That's just not how immigration works. And the fact that Biden let that happen, I mean, that for me is like unforgivable because these are human lives.
Right. I mean,
And you just don't let that happen.
I don't think the federal government had a solution because it's like, okay, uh, uh, you could like, stop the movement, the busing of migrants from Texas to New York, but then it becomes your problem. And I don't think the federal government wanted to deal with it. Because
They could have, but they chose not to.
right.
And I think that that's for me like just the final nail in the coffin where it's like I can't support this type of government. I'd rather
Right.
them not get in the country than to let them in and just ship them all to the fucking same spot and just create havoc.
Right.
Like that's just not how it works.
And one of the things about like the busing and the shipment of migrants, elsewhere is uh, I forget the numbers, but like the migrants that have been sh shipped elsewhere from the border states is only the fraction of those that they deal with. It's not like all the migrants in Texas went to New York and
No, I agree. I agree.
and blue states. It was just to send a message to say, hey, you're going to have to deal with what we're dealing with, where we have to um, house migrants. We have to give them health care. We have to give them food, water. We're not going to let them die. But these are a big strain on states, and sometimes it's just a strain on the city and town where there's just normal people living there, and they're like all of a sudden a national issue is something that we have to deal with, that we have to pay for.
Yeah, again, like if you're really illegal, you don't get any of those benefits. On a regular basis, you just don't get those benefits. For whatever reason, the Biden administration decided to give them a lot of these benefits. And so now it has become a topic, right? Now you can say we're giving them $500 every other week or whatever it was, and we're going to give them housing, and we're going to give them health care, and we're going to give them like petty cash or whatever the fuck policy that we're passing. That's not how it used to be, right? Back in the day, before Biden and all this other shit, you cross the border illegally, you have zero rights to any fucking federal government or local government money. Zero rights.
Right.
So to say that, oh, Texas was, having to pay for all these illegals, like, not really. Like, were there programs? Yeah, and I think that it's good to have a few programs, right? Like to help them out. But as a whole, if you're illegal, you're not going to get any help. You got to go out there and get a cash job and survive.
Yeah, I that might be for yeah, for the most part.
But under Biden, I don't know what crazy fucking ideas they came up with. They were like, you know what? Let's let the states and I don't know. I don't
Oh
know.
well,
It's
it
just it's
might
just
it,
dumb.
it might just be looping back to the very beginning where maybe it was just the self-righteous policymakers in the Biden
Yeah.
administration
Like
being
look at
like,
us. We're
Trump,
doing the
look
right
at what
thing.
Trump did. He was for against immigration because he's against, you know, Hispanics crossing the border. That's really it. We're the good moral people, so we're gonna not create walls. We'll, create open entry and we'll make things nice and comfortable for migrants that have traveled so far. But, that created, you know, more incentive to come and the subsequent, problems after that.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll find out what happens in the next 4 years. But if I had to guess, democracy is not dead. Um, Fascism isn't gonna like kick in all of a sudden. And I don't think that the people that voted for Trump are all Nazis, right?
Hmm.
There's always gonna be racism here and class warfare and people voted for Obama because he was black. Like that's just part of nature. But not everyone that voted for Obama was because he was black, right? And same thing for Trump, same thing for Bush, Clinton, Kamala, whatever. Like I think that that's a scapegoat and an easy way to like not have a real conversation.
Yeah, and there's one last thing I'd like to say before we wrap up
Go
that
for it.
I was thinking of. I think going back to all the things that we talked about authenticity, straight talk versus, prepared, perceived phonyism in politicians. What I thought was also like probably resonates and is magnetic to Trump supporters is after the first term when Trump left the White House, he wasn't like, this is horrible, this is terrible, this is the end of the world. He's like, in his like goodbye speech, he's like, hey, this is only the beginning. The struggle fights on goes on. Uh, it's not a great day, but we're gonna keep on fighting. And Trump did. And, he campaigned for in the next midterms. He obviously came back in the primaries, won the general election, and he's like, this is a movement, and I'm part of this movement. I'm the leader of this movement, and I'm not going to give up. Even though I might be a flawed person, he's not going to give up. Whereas, like, in watching Kamala Harris's whatever concession speech, she's basically like, "Oh, dark days ahead. You'll see the stars. Bye bye. I'm gonna have a nice cushy board position. And even though I told you there was democracy was over. Bye bye. Uh, you know, have a nice life." And that I think is maybe why Democrats are soul searching because they're like our leaders kind of were uh, maybe phone is a too hard a word, but weren't really in it for us or in it to win it. They just said some stuff that Trump is bad and he's a fascist, soon to be dictator, but in the end, they're just going to shake hands and go on their great lives and um, didn't really care about us, the voter. So I think that's why there's so much um, despondent, uh, soul searching on the Democrat side to say, hey, what is this really about?
I think Trump has every right to say that, his 2020 loss was crooked because the media did really fuck him over. And the media fucked him over this time. Just everybody was in such a shit situation that they just didn't care. Um, Kamala did reference the fight isn't over, keep your head up, keep fighting, keep
But is
fighting.
she even gonna be a part of that fight? The way
Yeah,
I've
but hang on, hang on,
listened
hang
to
on.
the,
But I think this is the unfair part, right?
Mhm.
Trump went through the primaries, became president, was the leader of the free world. And when he lost, he had a real base. He had a real base to talk to. Kamala ran for president, dropped out before the first ballot was even cast. Um, was selected to be vice president because she's a woman.
No,
Uh,
and that's true. People forget that. Like,
she was a
Biden
woman
promised
of color,
to select a woman of
and
color.
they attacked Bernie Sanders when he said, "Well, I'll pick the best person that's qualified." And when they asked the same question to Joe Biden was like, "No, no, no, no. I'm going to pick a woman of color." And it's like, why didn't Bernie say that? Well, because Bernie is a real, genuine human being and not some piece of shit politician. Um, and that's what we got, right? Biden picked Harris because she's a woman of color. Like that's 90% of the reason that she got picked. I won't say 100, but that's a high majority of why she got picked. Again, has never gotten a single vote in terms of like leading the country, dropped out before a single ballot was casted in the primaries, got selected to be VP, and then what did she do as VP? Nothing. They kept her out of the light. They kept her quiet. They gave her minimal responsibilities, minimal exposure, minimal of everything. What was it, like 2, 3 months before the election, or maybe a little bit longer? Oh, by the way, Biden's going to drop out. Harris, you come in. Is that really who you want to represent the future of the party? Someone that not only got crushed in 2024, but who has never, ever even connected with the Democrats. Like, no. So
No, but
for her to come out and just be like, hey, you know what? Let's all be friends, keep fighting, it's over, sayonara. I think that's appropriate. She should go into back into her closet that she's been in the last 4 years, and she should absolutely disappear.
yeah, but I agree with you, but part of it too is you can't say stuff like democracy is over
Oh,
and
dude, a
he
thousand
will be a
percent.
dictator on day one. Say all this stuff, make people so fearful that
Well,
that
you saw that family, some guy. I'm 98% sure this is true. There was an article where a guy killed his wife and children and then himself because Trump won.
I may have heard, I didn't see the headline, but I think I've heard of that. But yeah, I mean that's just an example. Like you sowed so much fear and distrust and uh over the direction of a Trump administration. Like you can't just say, "Hey, it sucked," but
By the way,
uh
welcome them in.
yeah. You can't just do that. Like
No, I
that's
know,
the
but
height of political misconduct. You can't make people afraid just to win an election.
right, right. And
And we'll see in 4 years if the three branches of government are still there, that the Constitution is intact, that you know,
Again,
laws are
this is
broken. Like,
this is the weird thing again. And we gotta wrap up, but at the end of the day, Trump has said some ridiculous things, like ridiculous things. And for whatever reason, everyone's like, well, that's fine. Like it's Trump. It's to be expected. And yet, when the Democrats say something, it's just like, whoa, can you believe that?
mhm.
And I think it's one, the media just trying to pin everything on, man, the Republicans are just evil. And no matter what they say, they're evil. We don't even have to listen to their speeches. We're not even gonna like play their speeches. Trust us. They're fascist Nazis.
And
Because
then,
I
yeah,
guarantee
push.
you, if they just play his shit, don't even give us the narrative. Just play his shit. People would be more like inclined to be like, huh, this guy's a little weird. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, and also, I mean, uh, the media play plays up like, crazy comments, and it's like, and usually the next question
Right,
is, how
right,
can you support this guy?
right.
Yeah, he says he wants to get rid of Roe v. Wade.
They're
You know,
drawing
you're
up their
you're
own
a you're
conclusions.
a rape victim. How can you support that? Or or yeah, like like it's kind of where I think the distrust for the media comes from, because
Yeah,
the media is no longer um, not just reporting the facts, delivering the facts in an even way. They're trying to drive the narrative where it says you need to oppose Trump and uh, by his statements, and then how can you not be opposed to him?
right. So even Jon Stewart was like the whole Puerto Rican thing. He showed a clip of CNN going, "We're not going to show you the clip because it's just so disturbing." And it's like, this is the problem. You're telling people what to think without even showing them what happened.
Mhm.
So same thing with like when he called I want to say like the Cheneys. I don't remember if it was the Cheneys or not, but like Trump was like, "Oh yeah, they're war hawks.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that family is a bunch of war hawks. They just want to go to war. They just want to send your family and children into war. I guarantee you that if it was them in the front lines with guns in front of them, you know, of whatever and getting shot at, they wouldn't want war, right? They would want peace. But because they are in DC, just commanding other families to go to war, they're all for it. And what did the media do? Trump wants the Cheneys dead.
Yeah, no, they
And it's
they
like, oh,
created a
Jesus
situation
Christ.
where it's like the comment was whether it wouldn't be so easy for Liz Cheney to go against like so many barrels of a gun promoting her, war hawk policies, to becoming, oh, Donald Trump wants to put her in front of a firing squad.
Right,
That completely out of context.
right, right, right. So, like I said, I honestly I just want the next 4 years to be better than the last 4 years because if not, then Democrats are going to win easily. Um, I think it's just a sign of the times. Things are expensive. People are suffering. No one is
Democrats
happy.
didn't have a positive message on how to fix these problems, I think is a fatal flaw, as we
Right. But
discussed.
that's because everyone's suffering, right? When everyone is suffering and you say, "Yeah, but that guy's bad." It's like, "Wait, that doesn't solve my problem." Right? Like if I'm
Hmm.
hungry and you tell me that that guy's bad, I'm like, "Cool, but yeah, but I'm still hungry." Like you're not resonating with me. If in 4 years we are thriving, it's going to be an uphill battle for the Democrats. If we're anywhere near the same, I think it'll be an easy win for the Democrats. assuming they're not dumb and put in like, I don't know, a crooked prosecutor like fucking Kamala Harris, right? Like, ugh, disgusting. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
I'm rooting for the stock market though.
Oh yeah, and crypto.
I've got a lot of money into the stock market at this point and a little bit into doggy coin. You got doggy
Mhm.
coin?
No, I just got Bitcoin, but it's getting close to remember during the pandemic, Bitcoin to the moon. Now it's like almost 100K for one
Yeah.
Bitcoin, which is crazy. And the the stocks have stock market generally has done very well.
If my only prediction, and I'm probably way off here because I don't know what I'm talking about. My only prediction is if you have any sort of crypto, sell it within 3 years.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think you
see.
got 3 years of like solid growth. After that, man, once Trump's out of office, God knows what's going to happen after that.
Well,
With crypto
yeah.
specifically.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what its role in American society is, but the fact that they approved during this administration ETFs uh, for Bitcoin is like crazy. Now people can just buy the ETF,
Yeah, but that all comes with like,
but it legitimizes it. Put it that way.
oh,
You don't have
100%, but it comes with more like regulation and it starts to like trickle into the world of, surveillance and rules and no longer, hey, we're a coin that nobody can like tell us what to do, right? It's
right,
that's starting to fade
right.
slowly but surely.
All right, we'll see what happens,
That's
and
my
AI
prediction.
will, and then yeah, we'll
That's
see.
that's my prediction. 3 years. Once it maxes out in 3 years, sell the shit out of it. Or it could just keep going higher. I have no idea.
Yeah, we'll see.
Um, no, but seriously, James, thanks for reaching out and wanting to talk about all of the complicated and sensitive issues that are going on today.
No, it's been great.
Um,
It's been good actual therapy because I feel like in New York, especially, people haven't gotten to a point where people are willing to even talk about it
well, that's the
in daily
problem with
life.
politics today, right? You're either with them or you're against them, and that's not how it is.
Yeah, like the people that I sit near in my office, like I have brought up like the election and I know that they're all Democrats, but they don't want to talk about it yet.
Right. And I think we should all like put on our big boy pants, big girl pants, whatever it may be, and just accept the fact that everyone is different. Everyone has different opinions. And while we agree on a lot of things, James, there's a few things that we disagree on, and I don't care. You're still a cool dude. I'll grab a beer and not give a shit, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you're respectful to people, I'll be respectful to others, and that includes each other, right? So
And no, and that's
enjoy
how
your
we'll
life, right? Just
yeah.
enjoy your fucking life.
And that's how we'll get to a better society once we can have open discussions.
Or you can just hate everyone that doesn't see it all your way. I don't know,
Right?
which is too often these days. Um, again, thanks for reaching out. I need to rethink the format of this whole thing because it is hard to like get people to like schedule to like sit down and have these type of conversations, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. But you've been doing it long enough that I'm sure you'll have more years of doing this.
I hope so because I love this shit. It's just the planning and getting people on board and all the things that go with it, right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I mean we had a great unstructured conversation, but in maybe that you maybe want to talk about structured things, seeing like, hey, this specific story, you watch it, I watch it, we'll play it, and then we'll see what you think about it.
TBD, TBD. Again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the conversation. I hope that literally everyone in the country can just put their feelings aside and their political views aside and just talk to everyone because that's what we need.
Yep, I agree.
All right, sir. I'm gonna let you go and I will see you soon because we gotta grab a beer.
Yeah, for sure.